This is the Door Knocker Podcast, where we dive into the explosive growth of the sales industry. We take an in-depth look with the industry's top talent to uncover what has made them successful as salespeople, leaders, and entrepreneurs. We believe all of life's opportunities are just behind the next door. With that being said, opportunities knocking. I'm your host, Zach Ross. So I'm super pumped today, everybody. I've been working through some technical difficulties with my buddy here, River. We've ran into some issues at our normal office, so we've had to do a little makeshift recording studio today. But I'm really excited to have River on here. A few, just run through the facts. River just recently got married to Daisha, currently the VP of Fluent. They have a little over 100 reps doing roughly on average of 195 deals a month. This is all solar. They're selling about 1.2 megawatts a month. And River personally currently has 75 year to date. So River, super pumped to have you on, man. Just go ahead and intro yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm very honored to be invited to be a guest on here. So thanks for the invitation. Grew up in northern Utah, so just Davis County area. Ever since I was really young, I always wanted to make a ton of money, and so my first sales job was working at my dad's roadside produce stand selling watermelons. He gave me commission of 50 cents a watermelon to sell, and I got $3 an hour plus commission, so salary plus commission. And I just fell in love with selling. And so when I graduated high school, I got into door-to-door sales and have been going around the country doing it ever since. So it's been amazing. It's been very, very a huge blessing for me.
How old were you when you sold watermelons, dude? That's so rad.
Like 8, 9 years old.
Really?
And then I did that every summer. So like every summer I'd go work for my dad's produce stand like 10 hours a day until I graduated high school. And so yeah, it was super cool. My dad gave me a great opportunity, and I have two amazing parents, my mom and my dad, and they always found a way for me to work for my things, and they never paid for any of my stuff. They made me buy my own car and buy my own insurance and gas and cell phone, and so it taught me a lot. And so yeah, it was really cool.
That's rad. The more I do this, it's pretty crazy the different types of upbringings everybody have, but it's pretty usually consistent with hard work ethic, right? Like I think that's purely instilled by our parents. So Northern Utah, man, you're a Utah boy. Where did you so after selling watermelons for a bit, did you have any other jobs, or was that kind of your shtick for your life?
Yeah, I've done tons of different like side things. I've done, like, my dad owned a concrete company, so doing concrete edging. So I would go and do concrete curbing. The guy that actually works for Vivid, his name is David Adams. His dad owned a sod farm, and so it's like a mile away. So I'd ride my bike to a sod farm and I'd help load sod. I bought and flipped over 20 cars when I was in high school. I used to do a detailing, so I'd go door to door and knock on people's door and say, I'll detail your car for $30. I've always just been a hustler and try to make a buck. So I've done tons of different little side jobs, worked at car washes, and so always was working, always loved it.
Yeah, like, did you have a lemonade stand? I mean, that would fit the Gary Vee narrative, dude, if you had a lemonade stand. So if you, no, I'm kidding. But from a young age where, River, you're already hitting the doors. So what was that like let's touch on that, man. What was that like in the beginning? I mean, obviously no one gave you any type of presentation or anything to say at the door. What was that like going door to door at that age?
I didn't really do it too much. I got a few family and friends that, I'd detail their cars. And then when I'd be detailing their cars, I'd just go talk to the neighbors when I was done and say, hey, look, I just got done doing theirs. And, I was like a 16-year-old kid. They just saw, this cute little kid trying to make some money. So I feel like I got the sympathy, and it was such a low ticket item. It went pretty well. I don't think it was the true experience of door to door of, going and grinding. It was just like hey, you want me to wash your car? And they're like, sure, why not? So
it's so funny that you say that. My dad, growing up, had a car washing business, and he did really well, super successful in Vegas for a long time, had fleets of trucks, etc., but then also did like private detailing. And I fancied myself just, I was like, oh, my dad does it, I'm a pro. But what I didn't realize is my dad did all the work.
Right.
And we had like a family friend. They wanted me to come watch their cars one day. They had like all these, beautiful like Porsches and this and that. So I'm over there a whole day. I spent the whole day watching all their cars. They never called me again. I don't think I did that good of a job. So, but it's funny already. I just wrote down knocking installs, right? So we're already knocking installs when we were watching one car. I'm knocking the neighbor's door. So I really respect that hustle, especially early on. So what happened after high school? What'd you do? Did you go to college? Where'd you go?
No, I've only been to college once, and that was to try to recruit some people. It was just one day thing. I cheated my way all through high school, asking for everybody else's homework, hated going, had like a 50% show up rate, just wanted to ride my dirt bike. And so I think I graduated with like a 2.4 GPA. Not because I was stupid. I don't think it was more, I just did not care. And I hated the idea of it. So I never even wanted to go to college. But yeah, I was very lucky. A guy that worked for my dad's produce stand, his name was Aaron Howard. He would come and work in the fall, and he went and did a summer of pest control. So he invited me to go to the Jazz game and, show me the opportunity. And so that was a very big blessing. I'm super grateful for that. And so the day I graduated high school, we did the whole cap and gown thing. And then me and 3 of my friends got into my Honda Civic, and we drove out to California from midnight to like 8 a.m. and got there and started selling a couple days later. And so it was like immediately right after I graduated high school, I went out. But and then I did a summer of dish, didn't do super well, got my teeth kicked in. And then I did a summer of pest control, didn't do super well. And then I found solar after that. And that's kind of where I found a lot of momentum.
Yeah, you make me feel like an old man. So let's just touch on this for a bit. So your buddy's dad owned a pest company?
No, sorry. My dad had an employee that come in the fall after his summer selling pest control.
Okay.
And he invited me to go sell with him door to door, but he switched to dish the following year instead of pest control.
Copy that. So you go out. Where did you guys drive out to that? You said that day you graduated high school. Where did you guys go out to?
San Jose, California.
Oh, you went to San Jose. That ain't a bad look, man. That's not a bad place to start.
It was Pittsburgh, California was the actual city, which is not like a nice place to live by any means, but it was in the San Jose office is what they called it.
So how long did you do that in the San Jose office for?
So it was just till the end of the summer. So it was like 2 or 3 months because I came in after graduating, and man, it was super difficult for me. I always felt like I was decent at selling. Like I always was fairly good at it. Like I was knocking in Utah before the summer with my manager. First day out knocking, we were knocking for like 30 minutes. And I called my manager. I'm like, hey, how do you pay paperwork? And he's like, why does that matter? I'm like, because somebody wants to buy it right now. I don't understand the paperwork. First 30 minutes ever knocking. And so it went really well. But when I went out for the summer, what really was difficult for me was the emotional aspect of it. Like I've always wanted to be somebody that's liked, and people, I wanted people's approval. And so when you go out there and you get people yelling at you and frustrated with you, and I already feel a little bit weird on the doors, and I'm consistently getting people to tell me no. And, it was very difficult. So I found a lot of days at the park, a lot of days on the curb, just being like, what am I doing? Cried, which I know a lot of people can probably say they've cried as well. So that was really the thing that I needed to learn most in door to door, was not like how to sell or what to say or how to say it, but more of how do I handle it when someone isn't interested or someone doesn't buy, or, that was the real difficult part for me. Yeah.
No, I can relate, man, on multiple levels. And I love that. I love always, a guy that was on this podcast who I was working with for a little bit, Bobby Taylor, talked about that. Like he sat on the curb and he like literally called his mom, and he was like, Mom, I'm coming home. And she goes, if you're not coming home, because if you come home, you're a quitter, Let's kind of unpack that summer though, because that for me, and I think a lot of people that listen to it's like one of the most important aspects. So you were like 18 years old then, right? That first pest summer?
Yep.
18. And then, how many contracts did you get signed that summer for pest?
So I was selling satellite. I think I ended up, I don't remember the amount. It was probably like 80 or 90.
So you pivoted right away. So you went out there for pest and then pivoted right to you guys moved right away.
No, I went out there for dish.
I see. Okay.
My manager the previous summer was selling pest control.
Copy that. That makes perfect sense. I'm tracking now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you went out and sold dish, like Casey bot status. So you went out and you sold dish and you 80, 90 accounts that year?
Yeah. And I would always sell a deal like every day, or I'd sell a deal, one or two a day if I was working. But, that's where the inconsistency came, was like, I would go and sell a deal, and then I would go sit on the curb and be like, I just don't want it, it's just too hard. And so that's the biggest thing in sales. And we were just talking about this before we started recording, was with podcasting or anything, is consistency. The only things that we can control is our input. I can't control if you want to purchase solar, if you want to purchase pest control. Like, I can't force you to do that. All I can focus on is my input. I can focus on my attitude, how hard I'm working. I can control on what I say, how I say it, and my energy, and the cards will fall where they fall. And so that's really been the shift for me, and it took me 2, 3, 4 years. I learn it every day. I'll go out there and I'll be like, this sucks. Like, it's not like I'm like still like, this is amazing, I don't have that issue anymore. I've just learned how to get through it, and I have to detach from the outcome. I think that's where a lot of problems arise for reps, is they're so attached to the outcome. And so they're thinking, I'm going to get the sell, I'm going to get the sell, I'm going to get the sell. They get on an emotional high. And then when they don't get it, their emotions go from an 8 down to a 2. And then their efforts quickly follow from an 8 effort to a 2 effort. And that's where they get the inconsistencies throughout the year or the summer or whatever program they're on, if that makes sense.
No, that was a super good nugget. Crazy that you say that, especially with especially with solar, man. That's like, I mean, all of them are the same, but especially with solar, because they're just making such a large investment. It's just, I know that sometimes people overthink solar, and our job is to decompress the situation, but no, that was a really good way of saying that. So you had a rough first summer, you go back home. What happens when you go back home? What was that like?
Just go back home, got a girlfriend, started hanging out with her, and working back at the produce stand, man. Working back at the produce stand, flipping cars, and just enjoying. I think I worked at a car wash, and I was just enjoying my summer. And then that spring, I was living with a friend, my friend was living with me at my parents' house. His name was Cody, and a guy named Jason Hershey went to recruit Cody when he was working at a Tricked Out Accessories, like a cell phone store. And so he invited me to go talk to Jason, and he recruited me to do this weird model. The business failed within like 2 months, but the model was, he was like, hey, the manager, CEO is basically trying to create a lead generation company where you go knock your door, you do surveys, and you say, hey, have you ever been interested in pest control? And then he'd hire contracts like Jiffy Lube. He'd try to get people to do reviews on the Jiffy Lube. And so it was like a 5-minute survey, and that was it. And we got paid at like $7 per survey. And I was doing like 30 of them a day, because it was like the easiest thing in the world. Like, talk about rejection. There was no rejection. Like, it was just the easiest thing ever to get done. And so, but they couldn't ever sell that information off. So they eventually ran out of money, and our checks started to bounce. But I really fell in love not with Jason, but I loved his leadership and the way that he led. Like, it was raining and snowing in January or February, and I called him. Like, he called me, he's like, hey, where are you at? What are you in? I'll come knock with you for a minute. And I said, dude, it's raining, I'm going home. Like, what are you talking about? And he said, what are you gonna do? Fucking melt? Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah, you can.
He's like, what are you gonna do? Fucking melt? I'm like, no, I'll go out. And so then I went out, and I just loved how he pushed me. He pushed me past that mental weakness. Consistently, he was always trying to challenge my self-limiting beliefs. And so when that business went under, that's when we went to sell pest control that following summer. And so, yeah, it was really cool.
So when was this? Was this like a survey thing? Was it like right after Dish, or was it the following summer?
It was the following. So we finished in like August or whatever. I don't know exactly when. It was
Yeah.
that following January. We did that for 2 months, and that was right when the summer was beginning. And so we went and did pest control afterwards.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this goes right into the new summer for pests. So this is year 2 for you technically, right? So you're like 19 years old now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, let's be honest. Did you make any money your first year doing dish? I mean, like, was it like
No,
life-changing money?
no, not really, like 10 grand or something,
Okay.
same thing the next summer. I went out, I sold pest control, and it wasn't getting a good result. I hated the office I was in. It was just super like, I don't know how to explain it. It was very, very like religious, and like they were praying in the meetings, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable. And I wasn't performing. Like I would sell a lot, but I could never get my accounts serviced. And so it was just like really frustrating for me. So I actually ended up leaving early, and quitting. I quit early and ended up finding, this is kind of funny, but or Jason found this guy that was selling bed sheets on the side of the road. And so you get these bed sheets, you set up a tent, and you'd have these banners around this tent, and you would sit on the roadside, kind of like my dad selling produce, and you'd sell these bed sheets. And so we started selling bed sheets on consignment on the side of the road. And we were making like, we would just Friday, Saturday be out slinging bed sheets for 10 hours a day, making like $1,000 in a weekend, which was way more money than what I was making in pest control. And I thought I made it. I thought I was like, I can retire like $1,000 a week. I don't have to deal with rejection. I just sit here on the roadside, and my biggest sell is I'm trying to convince someone to go from a $20 bed sheet to a $40 bed sheet, and like that's easy. And so like that's what we did for the next like 2 months, which was super fun, and it was weird, but it was cool. And while we were doing that, somebody reached out to Jason and offered him a position to just sell leads for solar. And so he was doing that for a while, and he's making good money. He's like, you got to come sell solar. I'm like, that sounds stupid, dude. I'm selling bed sheets. And we're still selling bed sheets on the weekend, but Monday through Thursday, Friday or whatever, he was selling solar. And finally I was just like, okay, I'll come sell some solar, but I also want to sell bed sheets too. And so that's when I first started getting into solar, just selling leads. I think I sold 8 my first month. And I was like, I love the idea of selling appointments. I love the idea that I didn't have to go through the hardship of knocking door to door, but I could walk into someone's home, close them, which is what I felt like I was decent at, and then get paid. And so that's where I started falling in love with solar.
Okay, I gotta unpack this a little bit. So are these like Egyptian cotton? Like, are these like, or the t-shirt cotton that you get at Target? I mean, what kind of bed sheets are we selling here?
They say they're Egyptian cotton. I don't know if they're true, but like they're like 800 thread count, and then we try to up the 1500 thread count bed sheets. And it was cool. We started getting them on consignment, and we eventually found the distributor. We cut out the middleman, and we get like these pallets of, $6,000 at a time delivered to our home. And then we would just go out and sell them. So it turned out to be a pretty cool deal.
Bed sheets, bro, on the side of the road.
Bed sheets on the side of the road.
In Utah.
Yep.
So did you have a sign? I mean, I need a picture is there like a photo that we can post on Instagram today or something where we can see like, show me describe the landscape. Like if I'm driving down the street, what do I see?
You see a pop-up tent with 2 tables full of bed sheets, and you see 3 yellow signs that says 800 thread count bed sheet, twin, full, queen, king, cow king, $20 a piece. And it's 3 banners wrapped around the pop-up tent, and it was bizarre. People would just flood in and buy them. So
I wonder if we should sell solar like that. Do we need to put a tent on the side of the road and just say solar now? Like pull over.
Pull over. Yeah, there's actually a picture on my Instagram.
Okay, I'll go look for it.
Or something, but it was cool. It was a really cool experience because that was the first time I started making good money. Gave me some confidence. I always liked to hustle, so I felt like I was a hustler on the weekends, and it was cool.
I love that. And so when you say selling leads, what do you mean by selling leads?
The company was called One Solar. They're out of Utah. I think they're in Vegas and in Colorado now.
They're here, yeah.
They're a great company. And they just had a canvassing team. And so they would have canvassing that, setters that go set leads, and then those leads would be set to our calendars. And, we showed up, we had a power bill, they had the power bill with the proposal, and we would just close the deal inside the home from leads.
So did you work for One Solar, or were you guys like independently contracted? Like how'd that work?
Yeah, directly for One Solar.
Directly for One Solar. So at this time, how old are you?
19.
19 for the One Solar thing too. So when you come onto One Solar, you're like, all right, well, I'll sell solar during the week, but I want to do my bed sheets on the weekends. So did they give you like a presentation? Did they teach you how to sell? Did they teach you a sales cycle? Like what was that like? Because the reason I'm asking is because what it seems like is you're a self-starter and you're a self-finisher, and you've taught yourself throughout all this stuff. Obviously, it's in your blood. Your dad probably rubbed off on you enough. These are just things I'm gathering. But what's it like going into a real, because you've had trouble finding a real organization, and One Solar's in Vegas. They do a lot of installs. They're pretty big solar company out here. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I always felt like I had really good training. Even when I was selling Dish, I had a guy named Alex Amini that was training me, and my manager. I learned a ton from him. Jason and the manager of One Solar was named Luciano. I still think Luciano is one of the best closers ever. Like he's pretty incredible. And so he taught me all about, what to say, how to say it, what questions to ask, just down to every detail. And I believe, especially when I'm training my reps now, I train it the same way that I was trained. And it's just a ton of role plays. You teach somebody what to say, how to say it, and you role play that over and 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 over again until they feel super comfortable. If we have 1,000 repetitions prior to going into a home, then that's the 1,001st time that they're saying it. I think oftentimes a lot of managers will just give somebody the script, or they'll do a quick training with them with an hour, then they'll send them out into a home. They maybe have played it once or twice, and there's no wonder why it takes them a month or two to get their first sell, because those first 1,000 repetitions are in people's homes. And so I think it's super important that when you're training people, you're giving them the repetitions inside the home, because nobody knows better than you or the manager the little mistakes that they're making. So when you're training someone, you give them the repetition at the very beginning. I think it's super important that you never critique them. You just tell them why they're going to be super successful. You just want to program their brain. Like, I'm going to be great at this. You're going to be great at this. You're going to make a ton of money. People are going to buy from you. And they're doing an awful job typically at the beginning, but you're just telling them how awesome they are. And as they get better and their confidence is high, that's when you can start critiquing them. It's like, don't say that this way, say it this way. Don't bring that up yet, bring that up right here. And then, when you said this, it made me feel this way. So switch that. And so that's when you can start critiquing people, I believe, is once they have a little bit of confidence. But at the very beginning, it's very intimidating unless you're an experienced salesperson, to be like role playing. It's a vulnerable position to be in. And so I think it's really important to constantly be giving them nourishment at the beginning until they get their confidence. And then it's slowly like, hey, switch this. You did this really well, but switch that. Let's do that again. And then you continue to role play.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we have a very similar model here. Lee's extremely versed on, bleeding in practice, so you don't have to bleed on the battlefield, right? And just like over and over and over and over. And it's funny you bring that up too. Like we've been recruiting a lot of people lately, fortunate for us. And what you see is, like I got a buddy of mine who's now started yesterday. So we give him a couple days in the car with one of my main guys. And then after that, like, you're on your own for a week. Let's see what you can do. And, we've got correlation every day for an hour. You got this, right? But what I've seen, my personal experience, is that the guys that memorize the pitch and the presentation, the script, whatever you want to call it, the guys that memorize it and just memorize it and exactly what you're saying are going to be the most successful, period. They're going to feel the most confident. And then the ones that, because it's funny, because I'll bring in someone, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a hitter. I know it for sure in my mind. And they just ice out. A week later, they quit. Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I always tell, guys, two things. If you want to be successful, you just keep it simple and you follow the process. If you're not closing deals, if you know your process, the reason why they're not selling is typically because they're getting off the process, or the customer's asking them a question and then they make it way too complicated and they turn like a spark into a fire, like an objection, a small thing that you just touch and go, and they make it way too overcomplicated. Like what happens if I replace my roof, or what happens if I need to move? They make it way big of a deal. Ed Milet says something that I think is super powerful. He says, you got to inspect what you expect. So if you're expecting your reps to follow the process, but you never inspect that, and you never, like, if someone's been selling for a month and you bring them back in and you never inspect or ask them to role play, you have no idea what they're saying in the home. Of course you think they're saying what you told them to say, but things shift over time and they start thinking, oh, one person had this objection, I'm going to start adding something to every single presentation to avoid that. And so people, like, you have to bring them back to the process, bring them back to the fundamentals. And so you have to inspect what you expect with reps and bring them back in and role play with them more. And with myself and with you and with everybody, we often think we're better than the process. We do one cool one-liner, one cool close, and it works. And then we think we need to do it every single time. And we start changing our pitch or our presentation. And then we start to stop closing at a high percentage, or we stop getting the result that we want. And we think it's because of X, Y, or Z, but it's really because we stopped doing the things that worked in the first place. And that's the simplest. Like, solar is so easy to sell if you just make it simple, but you can make it complicated super easily as well.
No, you're telling my story, man. And I've shared it on the podcast before, but there was 2 months this year. It was like March, April, where I thought I was going to go broke. I was just in a slump, and I was like calling Lee, and I'm like, cause I always check in, man. I always check in, like, Lee's my mentor. Like, I'll check in with him. I'll check in with a couple other guys I talk to on a regular basis. Like, and I was calling him, and I'm like, he's like, for weeks, like, it sounds like you're doing everything right. Just keep going. Cause I didn't see what I did. And I completely, exactly what you said. I heard one good recording of a guy that had said all this good stuff. And I went from, batting 80% to just completely just tanked.
Yeah, it's like when I came to Texas. I was selling in Utah. I come to Texas. I just invested in a bunch of sales training. I hired a sales coach, and I tried to be that person. I tried to be him and not me. And I was out for 10 days, didn't get one deal in Texas. I actually called Jason, and I was like, he's like, pitch me, like, inspect what you expect. And I was like pitching him. He's like, dude, that is nothing how you typically sell. Like, that's totally not you. They just go back to what you're doing before, and the things that coach is teaching you, maybe sprinkle it in, but you don't need to make the whole breakfast, dinner, and lunch that. And then I closed 18, in January. And so it was that shift of going back to the fundamentals, which is probably what you're talking about as well, is just super crucial.
No, it is. And that's not necessarily the trouble with content. I shouldn't say trouble, but, that could definitely be sometimes, I believe we always want to take in as much content as possible, but you said it perfectly. Like, it's just sprinkle a little bit here and there, cause that's like what happened when I found Taylor and Danny. I was like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, buddy. But then I was like, oh, chill a little bit, buy all their content, buy the cards, buy this, buy that, watch all their stuff, take it all in, but also, like, realize that, like, they've been doing it 13. I mean, Danny's been doing it 13 years. I've been knocking doors a year, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's like it's going to take me 12 more years to even, get that way. So
it happens so often. One thing that I believe, I think people need to stop focusing on selling. I think we focus so much on the result that and like I said, we don't have any control over it. My dad always told me to divorce the outcome and marry the process. My dad's a big MLM guy. So he owns produce stands, but he makes majority of his income through network marketing. And so he always, it's very similar to sell door to door, right? And he's basically saying, divorce the outcome, marry the process, divorce the outcome, marry the process. Last week, it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was out knocking, 0 on Monday, 0 on Tuesday, 0 on Wednesday. My self-belief comes popping back in, my insecurities. Am I good at this? Why have I been knocking for 8 years and I'm still getting bagels 3 days in a row? Maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. It's stupid, these stupid stories. And the following day, that Thursday, I closed 4. And so it was like a major shift. And it reminded me of that lesson: divorce the outcome, marry the process. Like, I can't control people by. And I was so focused Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the result, the zero, the zero, the zero, where if I was, and luckily I did get 4 the following Wednesday or following Thursday, that following day on Thursday. But if I would have had a lot more emotional stability and probably got a lot more appointments and more quality appointments if I was just focused on marry the process, just, work the hours as hard as you can, talk to the people you best you can, connect with the homeowner, and just marry the process and stop worrying about the outcome. Like, I just believe that's a fundamental to my core. I know a lot of guys disagree with that, and they're like, no, you have to be focused on, like, I'm going to sell more than everybody, I'm going to beat everybody. But for me, it doesn't work. For me, I have to focus on the process.
You said something. I didn't go to DDD Fest, but I watched that clip that they just released of you, and you said that because I've been saying that my whole life. You are the mean of the 5, the median, the mean of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and then you flip that, and you're like, the 5. I don't know how you said it. You'll say it right, but basically you flipped it, and it's interesting because I hired a buddy of mine who is one of the smartest people I know. He got his doctorate degree in literature, so he's one of the most well-read people I've ever met. And I just never really read books. I would consume podcasts, YouTubes, get all a wealth of this knowledge from all this stuff. But he was like, bro, you need to be reading a book a week, man. You need to be listening to a book in the morning. You need to be listening when you're driving a route. And this guy's not a door knocker. He's like, but you got to, and so what he literally became like my book sponsor. He would assign me a book every single week, and I'd call him, and he said, because, and it's funny because him and I will still talk, and like we're way more equals than like, oh, I'm his boss or whatever, because I don't like believe in that kind of thing. But like, we'll check in with each other all the time, and it's exactly that. It's like he's like, we do mostly like a route model, new home route model, and I'm trying to knock like street knock now, like just hardcore street knock. And some days, like you said, like yesterday was a long day, dude, a long day. And like I got one appointment, and that appointment wasn't even from a door, it was from a referral. So it was like, that's like sometimes too, like I've had it, we always talk about it, but I love the way you said that, right? Like divorce the outcome, marry the process. I'm going to steal that because it's just so true, man. Like it's, and they call it the solar coaster for a reason, but I think it's just that way on doors. And I think you said it so perfectly, which is, once I'm bought into the idea, those thoughts don't matter anymore. It's almost like I push them away across the other side of the room, and I can see them coming, but they don't get so loud, So that's good stuff. It's interesting. So let me just back up even a little bit more, because this thought just came to me. So this whole time you've been wanting to do doors, your dad's just been completely encouraging. Like he's always been supportive of this whole thing.
Yeah, my parents were always encouraging. My dad was the kind of guy that would do anything to try to make some money. One time, one of my favorite things he told me, I was like 10 or something. I asked him, I'm like, what are you doing today? He said, I'm going to find something for cheap and I'm going to sell it for more. That's cool. I like that. So he's always been an entrepreneur. He's tried every MLM in the book. And he's been successful. It took him, same thing. It took him years to become successful. And then finally it worked for him about 4 years ago. After about 10 years of doing network marketing, he finally got it, 10 years later, 6 years later. So when he sees me, crying on the curb and doing stuff like that, I think he just is like, that's just part of the process, like that's what you're going to need to do to get where you want to go. And so he's always super encouraging. I've never struggled with the parents and the friends being like, you can't do that. You're not going to be successful. Like people say, like, get rid of toxic people in your life. I've never had that. I've only had people that supported me and, I feel like they want what's best for me, and they're in alignment with the way I see things, So I've been very blessed that way.
Wow. Yeah, I love that, man. It's really powerful. And it's funny, was talking to a couple of my friends about this the other day, because a lot of them are getting bought into doors now because they see the success. And I've always been the guy where like, I'll just go do whatever. I'm very similar to you and your dad, where I'll just go do whatever to figure out how to make a little bit more money here, a little bit more money there, enjoy my life a little bit more here. And doors have just I burned the boats, dude. Like I don't even have a second option anymore, and I'm so grateful for it. And now people are seeing it, and they're like, at first it's like, oh yeah, you're crazy, you can do that. And I'm like, no man, anybody can literally do this job if you just show up to work, bro. Like that's, you don't have to have a certain type of personality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't, yeah, I could go to the Brian Tracy thing, but what I want to get on is that first year, you're 19 with one solar. When you first started selling solar, how'd you do? Did you just do a summer? Did you stay on for a year? Like, what did that look like for you?
I sold for a month. So I sold for a month. I sold 8 deals my first month. And it didn't have one cancel. That was super cool. I wish that was still a scenario for me. And then I actually left on a mission. So I went on a mission to Italy, and then came back and started selling solar again.
Oh, beautiful. Do you speak Italian now?
Yeah, see.
Nice, dude. We're in Italy.
Northern. So there's the Milan mission and then the Rome mission. So I was in Milan, which is all the northern. So super cool.
How sick was that?
It was incredible, man. It was beautiful. I learning a new language, learning a new culture. It was very, very culture shock for me. I've never been out of the country besides on a cruise to Mexico prior. So it was like it was almost like it just baffled me that people were speaking another language. People were shorter there. The cars were smaller. It was super bad. It was super bad.
Yeah, it always blows my mind when y'all, I mean, I got small. That's yeah, I mean, that's like, you're selling, that's a tough sale, right? And how many baptisms did you get in 2 years?
1.
What was that like?
It was cool. I mean, to be honest, I ended up leaving the church 18 months into my mission. So I probably wasn't the most effective missionary. I hated proselyting. I didn't believe in it. I didn't want to do it. I really believed in serving. I really believed in having fun. So I'm not the guy that's going to be like, I worked super hard on my mission. But every area I was in, I went and found a place to serve. So I found like a place to go and serve the homeless food, or I found a place to go, find a way to somehow get myself involved in the community and give back. And so that's what I spent most of my mission doing, and just having fun. I mean, people are probably not going to like hearing that, but that's just the truth. And so it was super cool. I just had a rad time out there. I had some awesome companions, and learned a lot, and just totally transformed my life.
So what did that look like for you then? I appreciate your vulnerability. Like, what did that look like? 18 months in, you leave the church. Did you leave Italy at that point? Did you stay a little bit longer? Like, what did your life look like after that? That's a pretty drastic change.
Yeah, I was probably 6 months in, and just being like, I read the Book of Mormon 4 times. I was praying. I was doing the things I was supposed to be doing to get revelation that the church is true, and the gospel is true. And I just never felt it. Maybe it's something that I was doing incorrectly. I don't know, but I was like 6 months in. I'm like, this is not what I believe in. However, I have no problems with the Mormon church, but I was like, this is not what I believe in. However, what's my one of my problems or things that I can fix or heal is I search for people's approval. So I was like, I ain't leaving. I'm sticking this out, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to look good. And so I did that for about a year. I just kept on studying the Bible and the Book of Mormon, and kept on trying to shift that. And I never got that. And finally, 18 months in, one of my companions was super cool. One of my best friends, named Rowdy, just like, dude, if I didn't believe in this, I would have left yesterday. And we had this conversation, and I ended up just calling my parents via FaceTime through my iPad. And I was like, I'm coming home. And they were super cool. They were super cool. I talked to my mission president, super cool, stake president, super cool, bishop, super cool. And, I just transitioned out and had massive amounts of support and love. And, so it actually was a pretty good and freeing experience to stop, trying to pretend like I was something I wasn't. I was being a fraud. And so that was super cool. It was super cool to experience that. And, I think a lot of people have struggles with that, but I think what I have found, the reason why I don't care talking about this is I just believe in being as real as I can be. And I believe that the more you're real, the more people will connect with you. You know, if you're fake and you're being someone you're not, like it's so weighing, you know, it's so weighing. And so it was a very, very freeing experience for me, you know, and I felt like a lot of people felt the same way I did. And so I sort of got to connect with a lot of people, and it turned out to be a beautiful experience.
Oh man, that's so powerful, because you don't always hear that story when people want to leave the church or leave any organization, really. So it's powerful that you had such support and feedback. That's pretty incredible. So you come back, and then by the time you get back, you're like 21. Is that kind of the case here? And then what, you know, you go back to Utah, and then what happens? You go back to One Solar. Where are you at? I mean, that's a crazy change. So what happens?
Yeah, so I started selling solar for one of my small company called Synergy. Sold there for like a month, and then my friend Jason reached out to me. He owned a dealer at the time called Sway Solar, and he's like, "Dude, stop working for that company. What are you doing? Like, there's just a construction company." He was like, "Come work for us, and let's go start a market. Let's fly you out to South Carolina, go start a market out in South Carolina." And dude, that's the way I roll, man. I'm like, you got it. So I committed within like 4 text messages. I was out in South Carolina like a month later, and started building a team, you know, and same thing, dude. I feel like prior to, and I'll go into this, but I've always felt like I've been talented enough. I felt like that my subconscious and my self-limiting beliefs always self-sabotage myself. So, you know, I didn't do very well at Dish. I didn't do super well selling pest control. I made decent money doing bed sheets, but then I go to start selling solar, and I'd sell 3 or 4 a month. And, you know, that was cool, but I could never get a team going. You know, I'd recruit a person or two, and we'd be cranking, but I could never really get, you know, 10, you know, 40, 30, 50, 60 deals a month. And so I was in South Carolina. In my opinion, I failed. Went to Rhode Island, tried to do the same thing up there, you know, failed, you know, and it got to a point where, you know, I made $100,000, you know, that I think it was like 18 months I was at Sway. I made $100,000 within a calendar year, which wasn't terrible money, you know, it was good money, but it was so frustrating for me to sell such a limited amount, 3-4 deals a month, to try to be recruiting, try to be training, try to be doing this, and just not getting the result I want. And I actually wasn't working super hard. I was working super hard mentally. And I think a lot of people do this. I think a lot of times people tell themselves a story like, you don't understand how hard it is. You don't understand how hard I'm working. But if you actually were to look at the amount of hours, I wasn't working that hard, but I was overthinking myself to death until I called my dad, and I was like, dude, you got a position at produce stand. I'm coming back. You know, I want to go back from $100,000 a year to 20, 30 grand, you know, or 10 grand in a summer selling watermelons, because all I wanted was a way out. And I was crying. You know, I've been doing door to door for 3 or 4 years now, and I'm like still a failure in my opinion. Like, I'm not doing well. And it finally, I started crying. I was by myself, and I just learned the word surrender. And all I was trying to do was stick a square peg into a circle hole. You know, I was trying to figure this out, and I was working so hard mentally, so frustrated, so irritated, but wanting the result super bad. But I wasn't working. I don't want to get spiritual or hunky-dory, but I wasn't working with the universe. You know,
do your thing,
if the wind was coming this way, I was running into it. And that word surrender, not meaning giving up, not meaning like laying on my back and being like, you know what, never mind, stop working. It was actually the opposite. It was, I now allow and accept anything in my life. You know, I now am okay with the results that I get. I now am okay with whatever happens. And I got like this huge release valve, you know, and pressure just, and I stopped caring if the peg went into the hole at all. I don't care if it was circle, triangle, square, rectangle, octagon. I don't care if it goes in the hole anymore. I don't care about the result. I'm just going to, once again, you know, marry the process, divorce the outcome, and the cards will lay where they lay. And so at that time, we were getting recruited from Sway to go work for Blue Raven. who, when I was on my mission, that's who Jason was working for. They were doing like 250 a month in Utah, just crushing it. And so he left to go start a dealer. And so then we ended up going back. And I went to, they allowed me to go and open a market in Boise. And this is after I felt like surrendering. I was just like, yeah, cool, like whatever. And I got there and they had an amazing lead program and they had so many good things in place. I'm so grateful for Blue Raven and what they taught me. And I finally felt like I was successful within like a month. I sold more deals than I ever had. I was doing like, 9-10 a month or something, which wasn't insane, but for me it was super good. Our team was doing about 45 installs a month, which was super awesome for me. I had amazing culture, amazing team. I left Boise, went to Utah. We got a team to do 100 a month for Blue Raven. Within like 4 or 5 months, we started a team out in North Carolina. We then started opening an office in Ohio. And so it shifted within like 2 years, but it all shifted from me just surrendering and just being like, I just was so ungrateful, man. I was so frustrated and just like, all I could think about is what I wanted. And I just remember surrendering and being grateful for things that I had, realizing, the beautiful family I have, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my brothers, my sister, the money, I'm safe. I have amazing friends, and when I started shifting from a scarcity mindset, a frustrated mindset, I started switching to surrendering and gratitude and acceptance. And I started operating differently. And I think homeowners could feel different. I think when I was recruiting, they felt a different human being. And so that's why I got a different result. And that's when the circle peg went into the circle hole sort of thing. And it started to feel like I finally was like, okay, I'm in a flow state. And so the key was surrendering and gratitude, man. That was the thing that shifted. So that was like a long riff.
No, it's so many nuggets. I got to sit here and take notes the whole time so I don't miss anything because I get, lost in the sauce too. No, that was really good. No, there's so much in there for me, but mainly, you said gratitude. It's like, Seth was on here talking about, I show up to work every day just with a mentality of gratitude. And, I've been pushing that mindset as well. And I finished, I don't know if you ever read that book Mindset, but I just finished it, man. And it was, talking about like a fixed mindset versus an abundant mindset. And I know you're like, you're pushing that abundant mindset, especially with the price of gas and all that stuff you're doing on Instagram, and just that mentality of, I'm just going to be excited for the life that I have because it's a joke. I mean, like, this life is a joke, and like, it's only a joke because if you take the opportunity to go knock doors, sell, or whatever, eventually, if you don't quit, and sometimes we fall, we get back up, etc. But if you don't quit, your life just becomes abundant. I mean, it just becomes fruitful, and because it's everything Zig Ziglar would talk about forever, and all of his writings and his teachings and everything. It's like, if you want to become a wealthy human being, you got to make other people rich. And that focus, especially in a leadership role, I think in this industry, for those people that stay, and, JT talked about that on this podcast before. It's like, the only thing you have to do right in this industry is never leave, and opportunity will present itself. So I do want to talk about the Blue Raven situation. So you go up to Boise and they just gave you a team, or, how did that work?
I moved out there by myself, and they recruited a setter manager, and I started recruiting. I reached out to my buddy CJ. He was the first person I recruited. He moved up there. There was 2 guys that were already up there ready to go. So that Blue Raven did recruit for me. So Jeff and David are their names. So they had them. I had CJ. CJ ended up recruiting his brother. And then, I started doing Indeed, and just like, before we know it, we had like 15 guys up there. But no, I didn't have like a team out there. It was at the beginning, it was training out of my apartment, and then once I get volume, then they got me an office space. But no, they've never sold a deal in Boise prior to me being there. It was me going up there and, running the whole, growing the whole thing.
Well, that's good, because I'm going to make sure that we cut this and edit it and post it on the Instagram and YouTube, because a lot of guys will bring them into interview and they act like we just have teams laying around for them. It's like, no, dude, that's not how this industry works, So it's always good to hear when it's like, yeah, dude, you got to go work for it, bro. Like, that's how this works. You go work for it, and then you'll attract those people. So what was that like in the beginning? Did Blue Raven like give you some type of presentation? Did you create your own presentation? Did the setter manager help with that? Like, what was that like in the very beginning, kind of trying to grow that team?
When you say presentation, you mean like a sales process, or how do you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
I use the same one I always used.
Same thing.
Same thing. But yeah, I actually recruited one of my friends. His name's Carlo. He came and became the setter manager there. We actually had two other setter managers. So we had three setter managers. And so we had tons of leads. And so, I in my opinion, in leading a team directly, there's four things that you need to do every day. You need to recruit, you need to bring people into the organization, you need to train those people that you recruit so they're equipped with the right tools to sell. The third thing you need to do as a leader is you need to sell, right? Show other people it's possible. Then the fourth thing is you need to develop people. You need to constantly be managing people and making sure that people are following the structure that you've put out there. And so that's what I've always considered the concept of hitting singles. I don't think Rome was built in a day. You can't, maybe some people can, you find some person that can poach a whole region or whatever, and that's good for them. But for me, I believe you just get on base. Once you get on base, you get the second. Once you get a second, third, and third home, and you focus on just doing your best to recruit somebody every day, doing your best to train that person every day, doing your best selling every day, doing your best managing every day, and hit a single, hit a single, hit a single, hit a single. And it's crazy how over 2-3 months that really can create an impact. And so that's all I was doing. I just recruit, train, sell, manage every day.
So powerful. So let me wow, how many, so you leave Boise and you're going back down to Utah. And where was this office that you have with Blue Raven in Utah?
Davis County. So, I moved back home to Farmington. I lived in I grew up in Layton, but I moved to Farmington. Same thing, just got a house there, was training. I have a lot of friends in Utah, obviously. That's where I grew up. So Jason, I was working with him. He had friends in Utah as well. So we started recruiting those people and started selling. And, we kept on doing the same thing. We just kept on recruiting, training, selling every day. And, Blue Raven recruited a stud named Tyler, and Tyler brought a bunch of people. And then I recruited, my friend Zach, who I still work with. Zach brought a lot of people. We recruited my friend Matt, and just like before we knew it, I think we had like 25 closers. Wow. And we're doing super, super well in Utah. And so the same thing.
What was like the most attractive thing? Like what was, what like helped with your recruiting, you think, the most when you moved back home with your friends? Like what did they see in you or in the industry that was so attractive that they're like, I want to do this?
I feel like I'm decent at branding myself on social media. Like people are really afraid to share who they are and what they're doing. And so if you actually look at the people on social media, they're not really sharing who they are. Most people don't even post. I just was bold enough to post. I was in love with the company. I was in love with the compensation structure. I was in love with what we were doing. I was completely bought in. And so that's all I would post about. I probably still to this day, I post 10 to 15 stories a day. I post, 1 to 2 posts a week. I constantly am putting out content, and I would just nourish other people. I would share Zach's story, how he was making money, how he was losing weight. I would share this person's story, how awesome it was. I'd be sharing how we're throwing money around and how we're giving away things and how we're going golfing and going to Jackson Hole. And, people that have never been in the door-to-door industry are very like, what the heck are they doing? I'm sitting behind a computer doing X, Y, or Z. And like, this guy is insane, but the other thing that Blue Raven had is they had a residual program. So every account that you sold, you got paid $100 a month on that account as long as you're with the company. And so I was at a point where it was very, very unique, right? So that's kind of the whole point. Now they pay $200 per kilowatt, so it's very low up front. So but it's just so unique that people were attracted or at least willing to listen. So I was constantly every month when I got my residual check, I would, it was when I moved to Utah, it was $8,000, and I got 9,000, then 10,000, then 11,000. And so I just post that check and I'd say, happy residual day, friend. And then I'd get my other friends' residuals and I would just post about their residuals. And there's no way someone's not going to be interested in that. Like I would get questions like 15, 20 DMs every month when people would ask me. So it was fairly easy to recruit, in my opinion.
Yeah, people are so afraid, to post. It's so weird. They're afraid to be vulnerable on the internet, which I mean, I guess I understand it, but I'm cut from the same cloth as you. And I'm just like, I don't care. And people knew me before. They knew me 10, 12 years ago, and they see now and they're like, what? The same thing, like, what? Like, no. I'm like, yeah, come through. You know what I mean? So I respect the social aspect of it, because it's our largest platform, and especially when you got people reposting your stuff and seeing this. So everything you're saying, I respect and I'm on board with. So what if you Blue Raven, you were loving it, life was good. When did the change go to Fluent? So when did you decide to change? When did you decide to take the offer, move to Texas? Like, where did that decision come from?
So that was like January, February of last year. I started like, okay, me and Jason were like, okay, we're done. We want to work somewhere else. They changed our compensation plan and a few things. It's so grateful for them and what they gave me. They gave me so much, and I'm forever grateful I worked there. However, I was ready to transition, and we started searching for companies. We went and sat down with a bunch of companies, and Fluent was kind of in a unique position because they have the largest privately owned smart home company nationwide. So internet in North America. So they're in Canada and the US. So they're a huge smart home company, and they do great there. They've tried to launch a solar program 3, 4, 5 times, and they've always failed. The problem with starting a dealer program is you have to have a lot of money if you want to run it well, in my opinion. The problem with going to a company that's already established is, it's really hard to scale up and hard to grow sometimes, unless it's with the right company. And so we were kind of searching for something that had some money, but wasn't really established yet. And that's kind of where Fluent was at. And so me and Jason and one other guy came on board, and they basically said, however you want to run it, you guys run it and start going, go. And so we started in Utah. We just started cranking. Once again, got that team going up to like 80, 90 accounts a month. And then we started spinning off offices. We went to Boise, we went to Ohio, we went to Arkansas, and just started cranking, and that's been about a year and a half ago, like 16 months ago or so.
Yeah, where's Jason at?
Jason's flying back to Utah right now.
I need to talk to Jason, dude. Jason's a legend.
Dude, Jason is the person that's had the most influence outside of my parents on my life.
How old is Jason?
34, 35.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put a face to that one. I'm gonna have to hit him up and be like, yo, who's this legend?
Yeah.
So you interview Fluent, you like the opportunity. Sounds like pretty incredible opportunity. Why'd you move to Texas?
We were going for about a year, living in Utah, and we lost like 90 reps, or not 90 reps. We were at like 160 reps in November of last year. And I handled things improperly as a leader with the net metering change with Rocky Mountain Power. Long story short, I didn't find a good enough solution. And, I lost credibility and trust with some of our people in our organization, and they chose to leave. And so at that time, we were just like, I want to move somewhere, so I just was looking at Virginia, looking at Texas. Jason was like, dude, I ain't moving to Virginia, but I'll move to Texas. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we flew out. This is how I do things. We look at 2 houses. I bought the first one or about the second one. And we moved out like a month later. And so we moved out here day after Christmas. And so, yeah, I've been out here about 6 months now.
And where in Texas are you?
North Lake, which is like 20 minutes north of Fort Worth. So DFW.
Where did all those people go when they left you?
All over God's green earth, man. They're all
literally.
Yeah. There's Vivint, there's, Legacy, Sunrun. I mean, you name them, they're there.
They wanted to go to something a little bit more comfy.
Yeah. So it is what it is.
No, I respect the honesty too, man. Go ahead.
the cool, and after that, we lost a whole team in Arkansas. It's been the most emotionally challenging thing I've ever been through over the past 6 months. I've quit. I've wanted to cry. I've, wanted to give up. I wanted to, just stop ever recruiting anybody. I just want to sell, like just like, how do I get rid of this pain? A lot of these guys I was working with for 2, 3, 4 years, very close relationships. And it hurt me deeply, not because of them, but because I felt like I failed when my position was to not do that. And so it was, it was really interesting, to, to go from doing super well, our volume dropped, our reps dropped. Luckily we still retained, a lot of great people, 80 people or so. However, to bounce back from that emotionally and continue to then continue to go back to our volume. We had our biggest week ever in company history last week with like 56 fluent or 56 deals to permits last week, which is great. Was very, very challenging. And the way that I did it, and I feel like the way that we did it as a company, was we went back to that fundamental of hitting singles. What are the 4 things we need to do every day? We need to recruit, train, sell, manage. And so, that was the same thing that got me when we first went to Fluent. We literally transitioned right during COVID. We had like, I don't know how many reps, a crap ton of reps of Blue Raven, a lot more than we have now. We thought all of them were going to follow us to Fluent. Well, they didn't. Because the residual retain. So we move over, we take like 10 people with us. COVID hits, we're not supposed to be knocking doors. Graham, the CEO of Fluent, is like, what are we doing here? This is not going to be working out. We need to, we need to start firing ops people. And we just told them, you're not firing a single person operations. We're going to make this work. And we started buckling down and just started doing recruit, train, sell, manage all the way through COVID. We scaled from, 10 deals a month to, 120 deals a month during COVID. And so, when there was that trying time this past, 2 quarters, we just went back to our fundamentals, which is recruit, train, sell, manage.
Keep it simple, stupid, right? I mean, you're just following your own advice.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question, because I saw you do the Knoxstar University takeover. That was dope. I love all my people on Segways. My ego still won't. I'm like, I keep telling myself every week I'm gonna buy a Segway. It's a little, might be nearly impossible in Vegas. There's probably a couple guys that are gonna listen to this that say I'm a wuss, and they're doing it right now, but I kind of like the AC in my car. But I'm one of these days I'm gonna buy a Segway and I'm gonna record it. So just show you that I'm out there with you. But were you knocking this much before as you are right now? Or is this kind of part of that process to hit singles?
No, I've always sold, I've probably always sold like 5 installs a month, give or take. Like if you're to average out, I typically will sell like 15, get them installed, not sell for a month or 2. But this year I've pretty much gone out every day unless I'm on vacation or something. I just think in the state of the business that we're in, that's part of my role is to be out selling every day. I also love the money, like it's, you go sell 8, 9, 10 deals that increases the money, your paycheck pretty significantly.
Yeah, it does.
Let me tell you something about a Segway, man. I've never had a Segway until about a month ago. And it is the best thing ever, dude. You don't knock door to door to door to door. You're cruising, dude. All you're looking for is 2 people at her home, garage door open, and so you're targeting the correct people so you can same day a lot more deals. But most importantly, when someone's a dick, someone's an ass, you turn around, you see the Segway you're about to ride on, and it's like a complete reset. Like I love it, dude. I think it's the best thing ever. Like I think it's so much, makes my life and job so much funner. Like I've sold like 10 people in our team to get a freaking Segway because it's just.
Oh, you've sold me on it pretty much. I just keep, honestly, I'm not even joking. Every other day I'll think about you. I'm like, this son of a gun. I'm like, do I need a Segway? And you create
curiosity, dude. Like you're in the same neighborhood. People are like, oh, you're the guy who's been like on that weird thing. What is that thing? Like it creates curiosity and kind of breaks that preoccupation a little bit sometimes. So
yeah, Lee's been trying to get me on it. He did a scooter for a long time, and he's 6'6", 265. So seeing a tattooed monster of a human being mashing down your neighborhood. And he had a scooter, he had the skateboard. And so he tells me that all the time. He's like, bro, I'd hit 3 or 4 miles just in the day, just mashing down the road on my scooter and my skateboard. And I'm like, all right, one of these days, it's probably going to be, once the weather cools down a little bit, I think I'll just run it and just hit it. And then it'll be a look. Cause I'm sure it's doable, but 115-degree heat's just a little bit of a ripper,
Yeah.
No, and so much good stuff here. I do want to touch on your podcast as it is right now. So when did you start doing this? And I've listened to, well, I don't want to say every single episode, but I've listened to a lot of them. And I appreciate the grit of it though, at the end of the day, whether you change it up or do something different with it, I appreciate the grit that it is the way that it is right now, because it's just one of those, it's a Gary Vee trick, man. It's just thoughts that come to your mind and you release them the way that they are on your phone. And why did you start doing that? I know you're huge on Win in the Morning, but why did you start doing that? What was the purpose of that? What's that been like for you?
Listen, man, I want to be speaking in front of thousands of people. I want to be, leading thousands of people. I want to have that gift of speaking, the gift of gab. I want to have that practice. And you get, people like Grant Cardone, you look at the best of the best, and you go back 10 years ago, you find their oldest content, they aren't nearly as good as they are now, So I've seen a few podcasts that they do a daily podcasts, and I like the platform. I like it was very digestible. It's very easy to listen to. But the main thing for me was it's a way for me to add value, and it's a way for me to practice a skill that I want to learn, which is talking, And so every day I get an opportunity for 5 to 10 minutes to go onto my phone, find something that's valuable, hopefully add value to the marketplace, and then practice speaking, right? And there's so many things I've learned from doing that, and I'm going to continue to learn. I'm always going to do that podcast format of 5-10 minutes, hopefully daily. I want to start doing interviews mixed in, but like now it's to the point where it's like, okay, this is going good, but how can I make the quality better? How can I get my audio to sound as good as yours? Like yours is 20 times better than mine. How can I do that? How can I start adding video and not just learning the skill of talking, but how can I learn the skill of production? How can I learn the skill of, marketing myself and creating a brand around myself? And so I just think it's an opportunity. And in the meantime, I hope it just adds value to people. And I've gotten some good feedback. I've gotten some bad feedback, but at the end of the day, I just think it's fun I just think it's fun. And I think it's a great way to sharpen my axe,
Yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that about this, because this is my brainchild that I've just really cared a lot about too. So I really appreciate that. And that's been my whole, even when I started doing this thing, it was slow to start. And then I had guys like Bodie and Casey, and I'm just like, dude, I don't even know what to, like, they would say, I mean, it happens even, I don't want to take away from anything here, because you've said a bunch of stuff too that's kind of stopped me in my tracks, but I've gotten a little bit more proficient at not just being like, what the heck, just like, all right, I got to keep going. Let me write it down. But when I first started doing it, some of these guys would say some stuff, and you can hear it on the podcast, or like my buddy Chase had to edit it out, because I would just be like, what did you just, in my mind? And I'd take a minute to come in. But, I've thought about doing very similar thing, what you're doing as well, just like a daily thought or whatever too, in between all the episodes. Although I think 1 a week is good, maybe 2 up it as it gets bigger, etc. But, I think that daily stuff is good. And I love the negative. I had a guy hop in on a post. It was this last week. We posted something about Casey Baugh, who, I don't know, man, seems to be one of the most incredible human beings ever walked the planet. And he left a little blurb about something about Casey. I was just like, here we go. First negative thing I've had to deal with. But luckily, my girlfriend came in and shot him down. He deleted his post and turned his account to private. But
yeah, when you put yourself out there, man, like you're doing, and like I feel like I've done consistently, I try to put myself out there and share my story, and hopefully add value. I've had people make fake accounts just to talk shit about me. I sold 9 deals in a day, and I won the top recruiter award from Sam. No numbers, it was just voted, and this guy comes on fake account saying like all those deals canceled. Some other person recruited all those reps. Please tell us more how amazing you are, and it hurts, it's not fun, but it's like, if you actually digest it and think about it, if somebody were to go on there and spend the time talking crap, it just shows where their mind's at. And so it's one of those things that it's not like I'm better than that person. It just means that, it's just an opportunity for us to practice that mental awareness of like, just forgive and let go and continue to move forward.
No,
In my opinion, it means that we're on the right track.
no, you're right. And it's so powerful because my girlfriend, she's, my favorite person on the entire planet. And she's probably one of the most passionate people I've ever met. I think anyone will ever meet. And she's, her, you could call it a defect, but it's an asset to her. She's just got a one-track mind.
Yeah.
She has a super successful plant store and she's had an internet presence for years, and people love to come after my girlfriend. I mean, they come out and she'll get on the explore page and they'll come out of the woodworks, and she just loves it because it's like, let all these internet haters come on, because they literally make her famous. Like, it's crazy how, and I going off of what you said, she's the closest person in my life. So we share the most intimate moments together. And I've learned so much from her, that because she did it before I did. It's everything we're talking about. She's been vulnerable. She's upfront. She'll do 50. I used to think it was so stupid and trivial. She'd do these long rants on social, but would get unbelievable feedback because she was just vulnerable. And the issue, tying it all together for me, was that I was just unwilling, like you said, to be vulnerable. Right. And there's a lot more, you're inspiring me now, even in this moment, to be even more vulnerable, which I'm gonna make it a challenge for myself the next probably month. It's just really powerful, dude. I especially because of where you're at and even how I found you. And then, like that, I mean, I've only been in the industry a year, but I've really only been in like grinding the content for about 6 months. And, it's crazy how quickly you can go up the scale just by interacting. So I do want to touch on all that stuff with Knockstar. So when did you get in with the Knockstar guys? What's that's been like for you, and how's that kind of, what's that relationship been like?
I didn't know Danny nor Taylor McCarthy like a year and a half ago. They just rolled out. I know who Danny was. I knew who Taylor was. Their first recruiting. I'm a big believer you should invest in yourself. I've probably invested over $150,000 now into coaching programs. Wow. So I believe in that. And so when they rolled that out, I was like, Taylor knows how to sell. Danny knows how to sell. I want to learn how to sell better. So I was one of their first clients. And so I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I also believe that, you should be giving back and you should be the law of reciprocity. And so I was always trying to, on social media, say how awesome Knockstar is to support them, and knowing that it would pay me back somehow. And so I probably enrolled 10, 15 people into Knockstar. I don't know exactly how many people. I've enrolled a lot of people, and, and so that's been cool. So I hired him as a personal coach after, which was great. And he's taught me a lot of stuff, maintained a good relationship with Danny. And so it paid off, where I actually have in my vision board in my home, in my room, it has me speaking in front of people. And so when they did their D2D fests, they invited me to speak, and it was my first time ever public speaking, and it scared the living shit out of me.
Yeah,
it was terrifying. And I was anxious a week before. And so it paid me back by giving me an opportunity to fulfill one of my thing on my vision board. And ever since then, Danny and I and Taylor and I have had a good relationship ever since. And, they're phenomenal trainers, and they know their stuff. It's not just smoke. It's real.
Oh no. Yeah. And that's like, I've had, Lee's trained me. I mean, I put our training up against anyone's. He's put together some of the best training ever. A lot like what you're describing, what these guys have done. And then I started taking in some Danny and Taylor content, and, it was just another level, because I feel the same way. I haven't invested, $150,000, but I have invested a lot. And I think that, I agree 100% with you. I'm going back and forth with that right now, like, doing the boot camp and then doing the year long, and, stuff that, like, really, honestly, I kind of am at the point in my life at 31, I'm still young, but being newer to the industry and knowing that, like, the long-term play, what it looks like, and knowing that, like, the relationships are good to be built and all this stuff. But like you said, like, these guys are on a trajectory, you know what I mean? And so, I feel the same way that you do, man. I bought the slicks. I use the slicks in the home. I mean, it's helped me close. I finally did 7 deals in a week. I was, I'm trying to get to 10. I had a goal of getting to 5. I got to 5 super quick, super easy is what it seems like now. It took 6 months, but and now that I've done 5, I did 7, and then I'm trying to get to 10, and married to the process like you talked about. And a lot of this content, like learning how to overcome objections at the door, learning how to do this, having the car. So just like all of it, taking it back to work, having Lee put some input on it, sprinkle a little bit of this and that. Like I love those guys' content. It's a lot of people hate on them too, which I love that. Anyone that's hated on as much as they are, I love that. That's like, I want to be I get attracted to people that get hated on. So like, and Taylor's ways get hated on a lot, and I love it. And I've tried to stay as close as I can. I had to eat lunch or dinner, excuse me, when he was in Vegas. Took him out to dinner, had a great experience. So I love that. And, I think I'm glad I got you on now before you were speaking. So when you'll remember the little people, you know what I mean? I'll say that you had you on here, and, I have similar visions for myself as well, man. I've always encouraged that. I've always had a goal to put a dope little convention together of like-minded individuals and masterminds, all that stuff. And so that's a big thing. And I know that we're running out of time here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have you, we're going to have to do another one, but, is there kind of any closing thoughts you have, man? Kind of anything you want to say to anyone that's listening, and any words of encouragement or anything like that?
Yeah. I made a post about this the other day, and I just had this thought. And the thought was, like, I had a goal to close 200 self-gen deals in 2021. And I'm not going to hit that goal. And I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because the reason why I did it was to prove to everybody else that I was good. I was a good salesman. That was the only reason why. It's just for other people's approval. Now, that would have been cool, and I made a ton of money. But I have come to the realization that I do not care about being the best salesperson. I do not care about being the best leader. I do not care about being the best recruiter. That doesn't mean I don't want to be the best that I can possibly be. The thing that I see so often, and I think people get eaten up inside, is that they are constantly chasing to beat somebody else. They're constant, and I hate to break it to everybody, you are never going to be the best. There's going to be some metric that one other person's better than, and they'll always have that over you. And then you're better than this person in this area. And there's always going to be something like, how many deals did you close? Okay, well, what was your cancellation rate? Okay, well, how many like, you can look at it from 20 different angles. I'm not going to live my life to prove to X, Y, or Z how amazing I am. The reason why I'm in the industry I'm in is for a few different reasons. Number one, I truly believe that if you do this correctly, you can create generational wealth for your family. You can create the best lifestyle ever, and you can have free time. There's and it's zero upfront capital to do it. So that's why I'm in it. The second thing is I believe you can help other people create that exact same thing. That's the reason why I'm in this. That does not mean I need to be better than you. That does not mean that you are better than me. That's the reason why I'm in it. I'm in it for me and to help others. And when I started to realize that, it started to become an internal game, right? It was me versus me. It was me versus, what do I truly want? Do I care if I close 10 this week? Do I care if I close 30 this month? Do I care if I close 200 this year? No. What I want to do is I have it all written down. I want to make X amount of dollars so I can invest this amount of money with this much cash on cash return, which will yield this much residual income in this amount of time to give me what? Time freedom. And that, just like what Bodie was talking about, that's what clicked for me. This is an opportunity to buy back time. This is not an opportunity for me to be better than you to be better than somebody else, you to show the company or the CEO how awesome you are at selling something door to door. They don't care that much. They don't care. All they care about is production. At the end of the day, it's not going to make them like you or love you anymore. Like, stop focusing on the external, start focusing on the internal. How can this game help you get what you want? For me, I want time. I want financial freedom. I want time freedom. I want generational wealth. I want to help other people do the same thing. I'm not here to measure my dick. Like, don't care. Like at the end of the day, I think people need to stop, put the tape measure down, stop measuring yourself to other people, and start focusing on, what do you want? Is this an avenue? Is this a vehicle that can take you to what you want to create? If it is, continue on. If this is not, get the hell out of the industry. if this is what can take you to where you want to go, start focusing on that. What do you want? And start creating it through the vehicle. And that's where I think we can get the best results. And if you're getting other results in other ways, great. I think that's how you get the most fulfillment, So that's the last thing I'd say to people.
Well, that's the best way to wrap this thing up, dude. I'm not going to add anything to that. I think you did it. I was just literally, while you were saying that stuff, this has been as good as I knew it would be, if not a little bit better. So it's been super powerful, and I appreciate it. And I know that everyone that hears this will appreciate it. So thank you, man. I appreciate you taking out some time. I know you got a busy schedule. And thanks for being flexible while we had some stuff going on. So I really appreciate it, man. Thank you a lot.